measurements worked out the way that they did. So let's go to 392. And we're going to talk about classifying triangles. Okay. There's going to be two major ways in which we're going to classify triangles. Okay. And the first way is going to be by their angles. Depending on what angles are present in the triangle will determine what kind of triangle it is in that regard. Is it an acute triangle? Is it a right triangle? Is it an obtuse triangle? Will depend on what kind of angles are inside of the triangle. So we've covered those. We covered those on our quiz. You've covered them in your notes. But an acute triangle is a triangle that has all three acute angles. All three of their angle measurements are less than 90. An obtuse was one obtuse angle. Now, how come it's not three obtuse angles? How come it's not two obtuse angles? There's an obtuse angle, right? Greater than 90. But in order for me to keep it a triangle, I can make only one more line. See, I can't think that I'm going to have an obtuse angle and another obtuse angle. There's an obtuse. If I draw a line that connects them, do I have it? No, it's like a cart, doesn't it? Okay. It's not a triangle anymore because it has 1, 2, 3, 4 sides. So it's only possible for it to have one obtuse angle. And the right triangle, very similar. Only has one right angle. And for that same reason, if this is a right angle, I can't have another right angle and still call it a triangle. Does that make sense? Along with that, triangles, the angles on the inside will add up to be 180 degrees. You want to get that down. I don't know if that's clear in your notes. It wasn't necessarily a vocabulary word for today or a concept found in your vocabulary, but it's going to be a concept that is going to be on your assignment, most likely be on your test later on. It's 180 degrees. So in some instances, they will give you two angle measurements for a triangle and ask you to find the third. For example, we take a triangle that looks similar to this one and say that it has a 50-degree angle and it has a 65-degree angle, but I don't know what that angle is. How do I find it out? Yeah. Find out how many I have so far, which is going to be 115 from 180. Okay. And I should get 65. Is that okay that I have a 65 and a 65? Yeah. It's totally fine. What would we classify this triangle as based on its angle measurements? It's acute because they're all less than 90. Okay? So you add up what's already there, subtract it from 180 to find the missing measurement. How do you check it? How can you check it? You can add them all up. You can add them 65, 65, and 50. 65, 65, 130 plus 50 is 180. As long as it adds up to be 180 again, you're going to be just fine. Okay? Now, going off that other figure that was on your worksheet, let's do something like this. Is that it? Right? Something like that. That was 90, that was 90. How many sides does that figure have? 4. So if there are 4, the internal angles here, you're going to tack on another 90 to that 180, and it's going to make it 270. Is that right? No, 360. 360 for a 4-sided figure. So we had a 90. 90 was 180. And then what was the other one? It was 135. And it was 45. So that also equaled 180. So the 180 plus the 180 gave us the 360 that we needed. So that's why it was a mathematical reason as to why it couldn't have been 135 and 55. That would have put us at 370 total degrees on the inside, which isn't possible. So there's a mathematical reason for it. You don't have to worry about 4-sided figures today. You've got to worry about triangles. Any questions on finding the missing angle measurement? You want to try one on your own? No? Yes? Okay. All right. The other way in which we classify triangle is by its sides. So the first way is by its angles. The second way is by its sides. So we call the equilateral 3 congruent sides. So all 3 sides are the same measurement. We said an isosceles essentially is 2 congruent sides, and a scalene, right, 0 congruent sides. None of the sides are the same. Okay? Now let's go back here for a second and take a look at what we had, the one that we figured out. This one here, I mean, it's not drawn perfectly, but because I have 2 angles that are the same, chances are 2 sides are also going to be the same. So we would classify this not only as an acute triangle, but also acute and isosceles. So when you are asked to classify the triangles based on their sides and their angle measurements, you'll have to have both. Classify it first by its angles, then by its sides. Okay? Now, fast forwarding here, an equilateral, something like that, if all 3 sides are the same, and they'll use those little markings to show you that, what else can you conclude are going to be the same? Right, the angles are also going to be the same. Therefore, to get 180, I've got 3 angles. Each of them have to measure out to be 60. Okay? So that's usually how it works out. Now, if you have a triangle that does not have any angles in common, you're not going to have any sides in common either. Okay? It's consistent that way. All right? So take a look at 393, example 3. Classify each triangle by its sides. You've got a triangle with sides of 4, 4, and 6. That would classify as what? Isosceles. It would also be acute, right? But by its sides, we don't use acute because acute measures the angles. Okay? And then 5, 5.5, 3.5, and B. 5.5, 3.5, and 8 would be scalene because none of them are the same. And then C, looks very similar to the one we have up here, would be equilateral. Okay, so let's take a quick look at 394, see if there's any areas we need to reinforce. Other than that, then I can get you going on your assignment if there's no major issues. Classify each triangle by its angles, 1, 2, and 3. When you look at triangle number 1, by its angles, you would call that acute, right, or obtuse. Right because of the right angle. 2, acute, right, or obtuse. Acute because all 3 angles are acute. 3, that one is obtuse because of the 115. Find the value of x for triangles with the given angle measurements. Try numbers 4 and 5 real quick. Just because. You got some of those wolf t-shirts at home, right? With the wolf on it, the moon in the back, and the trees. Cool. All right. 15, 60. We've got 75 so far. Subtract the 75 from the 180. 105. So what kind of a triangle is this if we try to classify it by its angles? Choose. Question. No, it's still a triangle. We still got to do 180. 14 and 76 is what? So subtract 90 from 180. What kind of triangle is this? Right triangle. Right triangle. 90 degrees. Okay, do you want to try any more? Or do you... All right. 10. Classify the triangle by its sides. Right by its angles, by its sides, it's scalene. Thank you. Because none of them are the same. 11. Isosceles and acute. 12. Isosceles, because of the 5 and 5, and acute again. Very good. 16. Scalene by its sides, right by its angle. 17. Isosceles and obtuse. Good. And 18. Scalene. Acute. All right. So 8-4 should have numbers 1 through 4.